Good morning. Very early in the morning in Israel for you, Jonathan. Thank you very much for getting up for us. Hope you've got a strong coffee there.
Yeah.
Um, so the story of Amos Nachoum, the polar bear, it's so full of analogy, the whole film. So especially the comparison with Amos's relationship with his father, this elusive man, untouchable and ferocious man. There were two moments in the film when that treasured prize was so close to him. The first was when the male polar bear was there and that bear turned on him, which I just went, oh my God, and I'm sure a lot of people did. Did you think he was possibly a goner at that point? Did you, when they were crying out for help, think this could be it?
Yeah, I mean, what we try to do, I think, in this scene is to make you as an audience, as a viewer, feel what we felt on the boat, because we didn't know what's happening. We saw the bear is coming closer. The bear started to dive, which is something that we hope will not happen, because when they dive, it becomes more dangerous. They can dive for a long time. They can dive deep. And the behavior of the male was became unpredicted, and we were pretty far away. So we kind of had this fear. My biggest fear was that something will happen to Amos, and then I don't have a film. But also, I took all the responsibility and all the money from the broadcasters, and go to the Canadian Arctic, come back without a film. But worse than that, one of the people that I respect most and I love, and is the protagonist of my film, is my teacher for photography. Before that, my mentor. Something happened to him, and if something happened to you there, it's very, very difficult and dangerous. It's far away. So yeah, I was afraid.
Well, the whole business is high risk, high reward. I mean, everything Amos does is high risk, high reward, isn't it? Really. So the ultimate prize he did get in the end. He got that probably better than you hoped for, the mother and the two cubs. I mean, we saw the elation on the boat, but can you describe how you felt? Was there tears?
Yeah, everybody was in tears. I remember the last after we took this shot, we sailed home to this three tents that we had somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and there was this beautiful rainbow above his head as we were, sailing back. It's kind of hard to see the rainbow in the film. In real life, it was much stronger, and everybody were, just sitting with themselves, and I had tears in my eyes. I knew that we did it, and he did it. I have to say that he was much more confident and relaxed than us. He he doesn't think that he took a risk. For him, it's what he's doing for 45 years, and he's going into the water and doing what he does with animals only when he feels total comfort and relaxed. um, he was trying to the weight of the of the suit and the buoyancy control device. He tried it maybe 8 or 9 times back and forth, and it's like 40-50 pounds, and he's going into the water, going out, going into the water, going out, going into the water, going out, just to make sure that he feels comfortable. And he says, I only do that when I feel total comfort. And that's why for him it was not scary, it was just to be focused. But when it all finished, it all came out, everybody were like so excited.
So he's courageous, but not foolhardy as a person, I guess. I was just thinking about filming in those conditions is obviously challenging. The cold. I was wondering, does the cold do anything to your equipment?
Yeah, you have to, for example, with the housing for the camera, you need to keep it out. You can't take it into into the tent. So we had another place to put all the equipment that we had, all the um, filming equipment outside, covered with like a big, you know, sheet of bracent. I don't know how to say, but it takes some. You need to do some things in different way when you work in this conditions. Even though I have to say it was the middle of the summer, so it ranged between -3 to 3-4 degrees. It was not -20 or something like that, but still very very difficult conditions to
I
work.
also noticed that there was a plague of flies there. How much do they disrupt your filming?
Well, actually, the flies are a really good sign, because when the flies are there, and it's, I don't know if it's flies or mosquitoes, but it's this big and they bite. So but when they are there, that means that there is no wind, and then you can sail out. When there are no flies, that means there is strong wind and you have to stay in the camp. So we actually waited for the flies to come.
Okay, back now to the, the actual heart of the film, which is Amos and who he is and particularly his relationship with his family. His father said some devastating things that you got on camera, basically negating his whole existence, saying that a man who doesn't give to others is nothing. So I guess his father lost that what Amos has given to the world, particularly natural history, is this amazing gift. Do you think Amos realizes the value of that gift himself?
Yeah, when Amos is speaking today about his father, he's not speaking with him about him um, negatively. He says he was he was who he was. He came from a different generation. He had his own difficulties and past, his PTSD, and I understood that what Amos says in my late 30s, that he will never accept me the way I am, because he wants me to be in Israel. He wants me to be a carpenter. He wants me to be married with children, and I never gave him that. Um, so, and then he says, I started to appreciate the fact that he was so tough with me, because the fact that he was tough with me made me who I am today, and made me go out to the world and try to reinvent myself. So I think Amos always trying to find, or most of the time is trying to find the positive in every situation. He's a very hopeful person. He doesn't give up. He can get angry, but he doesn't give up. And same thing with his father. He accepted it, and he knew that he got this gift from nature to be able to connect to something which is for him bigger than his father, bigger than him, and that's what he's trying to do.
And he has you can tell he has a feeling for life that only people that have experienced really bad things have got. He's seen death from a very young age, experienced war. I understand he was a war photographer in Rwanda. He's seen things that people in their everyday life don't see. So that must be where his love of life comes from.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that Amos is doing what the psychologists called reframing. He's doing that with the camera. He took his life, he took his experiences, he took his knowledge um, in war, for example, yeah, and he's using the same experience and same knowledge, but instead of shooting people or getting shot by someone else, he is shooting animals, but without harming them, without harassing them. And what he brings to the world is beauty and hope and relationship and connection. And he also has a company called Big Animals, biganimals.com. You can check it out. Usually he's taking people on expeditions. So he's not only photographing for himself, but he's actually allowing other people to get out of their comfort zone and to do something they've always dreamt of, like swimming with a whale, with a blue whale, and doing that without harassing the animal, doing that in harmony with the animal. If it's a crocodile, if it's a leopard seal, if it's an orca, or anaconda, or any of these animals. So he's also helping other people to deal with their own fears, and he's doing that using the camera.
As a filmmaker, did you ever feel intimidated by him because of his own skill with the camera and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you film Amos, is when you like holding a camera and you tell him, hey, Amos, I want to take this shot, and can you just go here with the camera and walk around and just wander around? He's walking with the camera exactly on the edge of your frame and coming exactly to where you want him to go, because he asks you before, on which lens are you shooting me? So he's adjusting himself to your lens, without seeing the camera, with being 20, 30, 40 meters away from you. He sees the world in pictures, and he knows still photography and framing so good. So in the beginning, I was shaking when I was filming him. But don't forget, I was working as his assistant back in 2007. So I spent some time with him in the field. I learned from him. Most of what I know about photography is from him. I'm not even close to his level, but my goal was, and not myself, also Dani Menki, which is my co-director, and Adam Ravich, that took the photo, who did the cinematography underwater and from the drones. Our goal was to try to bring ourselves to the level of Amos photography. I'm not sure we made it, but at least we tried.
Do you think he will literally keep doing what he does until the day he dies?
Well, he definitely want to continue to do that. He's just, sitting in Monterey in California now, really, really, really wanting to go out again, to the field and to be in nature. Meanwhile, these days, we release the film everywhere in the world, on the digital platform, on pictureofhislife.com. So even after Doc Edge, if people will want to watch the film, they will be able to. And we had an interview in the CNN Live last week. So he's very much into the distribution right now, but I can feel that he wants to be again in the field.
I must ask that he appears to have lived what we would call a manly life. He's in the company of men, he's active, he's adventurous, he's taking risks. I'm just curious about what he's like with women. How does he act around women? Does he get on well with women?
So when I met him, he didn't have a girlfriend, and he was this, womanizer, walking around and blah, 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 and all that. But in the past, I think 7, 8 years, he has a girlfriend, Blaze, and they have a pretty stable relationship. They don't have children, but he is very close to her. He speaks about her a lot. And I think, he's 70 years old today, believe it or not. I see a question here about Captain Ahab from Moby Dick, and will it end differently for Amos? My answer to that is that Amos is a person who's usually gets what he wants. And if Amos really would have a death wish, he would have been dead by now. He had too many opportunities to die. So I really don't think seeing Amos in the field, I don't think is reckless, or he has no responsibility. I think he's very responsible. I think he's very thoughtful. I think he's investigating what he wants to do for years before he does it. I think he's gathering the best people around him to make his dreams come true. I think he has huge respect for nature, and he has so much experience with nature, so he can feel when things start to change and give up in a second about a dream to stay safe. So I think it will end differently. I think it will. I don't think. I don't think. I hope. And I don't think he will get eaten by one of the animals.
I noticed that he's got a New Zealand black beanie with a silver fern on it. Do you know anything about this black beanie?
Yeah, Amos always says something that is maybe will not surprise you, but he says that for him, visiting New Zealand a couple of times, New Zealand is the most beautiful place in the world. He calls New Zealand the promised land, even though he came from Israel, which is supposed to be the promised land. But he thinks, just like me, that New Zealand is one of the most beautiful places on earth, and not only beautiful, but also one of the places that has the most respect for nature. He loves New Zealand. We didn't plan it. We had no idea. I didn't have an idea back then that I will go to New Zealand and with my hero brother, and which won the best director, best international director in Doc Edge 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I didn't know that I will become a part of the Edmund Hillary Fellowship. I didn't know all that. But Amos loved New Zealand, and he wore this hat. It was his decision.
I had a little look online, and it didn't surprise me to find that he had taken a photo of our active volcano, White Island, Bakari. I thought, yeah, that would be the risky sort of shot, taking a photo of the active volcano here.
Mm.
So any plans for him to come back and do any photography here, do you know?
I know that if Doc Edge would happen this year, he would probably come. I mean, it's happening, but if it would happen live, in face to face like it used to be, but I think COVID-19 changed the plans, and I hope he will come back. He wants to be back. Yeah, definitely.
That would be great. Just one more question before you go. We have to bring it back to the father-son relationship. Quite touching, those scenes of his father in the hospital calling out for his son, and I'm just wondering if they had any sort of emotional bonding, reconciliation, anything like that before his father died.
Well, I think there was another time that Amos came to Israel and met his father before he's died, because the scene where he's shot in the hospital, Amos was not there. It was only me and Danny, and it actually we took this scene. We shot this scene a couple of weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks before we went to the Arctic. I think after that, his father got a bit better, and Amos did see him one more time, but then he got worse again. And so I think they had another meeting that we didn't film, which was a better one than the one that you see in the beginning, which was terrible. But the real closure with his father really happened only when he watched the materials that we shot. And the story was that his father died, and then Amos came to Israel. He was not even in the funeral. He came back later because he was on an expedition. I don't remember where, I think in Brazil. And when he came to Israel, I told him, I've got something to show you. And then we showed him this scene of his father speaking about him, with love and respect and even admiration, And Amos was really touched by it. He thanks us. He thanked us. He had tears in his eyes. And then we went to the grave, and he put this picture that we developed for him to put on the grave. these two things, this Amos seeing his father saying, I love you, you are my boy, you are my hero, and Amos goes to his grave and put this amazing picture of the family of the bears. These two scenes would never happen without the film.
No.
And this is what I call docu-therapy. This is the way in which documentary films can become part of a therapeutic process of a person. I've made a TED talk about it. If you want to watch, just write docu-therapy or Yonatan Nir TEDx, and you can watch it. But this is exactly what happens, what can happen in documentary films. You don't document reality, you create reality.
Well,
by
it was,
being there.
yes, it was beautiful. And he was actually very fortunate. Not everyone gets to have that, you know, at the end. Often people can lose people with things unsaid, unresolved. So, you know, it was a great ending, both for that relationship and for the film.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, you know, the psychology often look, you know, psychologists often look for what they call unfinished business and try to complete, to finish the unfinished business. And Amos definitely had two unfinished businesses in his life. One is with his father, the other one was the war. He spoke about the war and kind of, you know, expressed it in the Arctic in this very touching scene where he cries on the rock and you know, speaks about the war, about coming here to this beautiful place and see the beauty in life instead of the misery in life and all that. But the closure with the father happened, you know, only because of the camera and through the camera and through, you know, the information got from the father through the camera to Amos, and then he made some kind of closure. It's not a complete closure for sure, but it's a kind of closure. And that's the way it is, you know, documentary films, they also search for closures. We look for closures. And so if you do it together, you can have a process which is therapeutic, but also a good film. So that's what I'm trying to do in my films mostly.
Well, it's a beautiful gift to have that, isn't it, in your film? So, but it was a wonderful film, and I must say, it affected me quite emotionally. I was surprised that there were moments that I felt quite emotional. You know, the mother bear and the cubs was one of them, because they were powerful and vulnerable at the same time, you know, in that environment. And so was he. He was in a very vulnerable position. So thank you so much.
And Leonard Cohen, you know, said it in his own words, but better than us. He said that there is a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in. And we felt when we heard this story, and believe me, it was difficult to get the rights for this song and expensive. But when we heard this song, we knew that this is going to be the song to end the film, because this is the story of Amos. You know, he could not have made these amazing pictures. He could not have created this beauty that he had created throughout his life without also seeing the other side. There is no light without the darkness, and there is no light without a crack, you know, that let this light come in. And I think this is what Amos is doing, and this is what we tried to do in our film.
And it's also a principle of photography, the light and the dark.
Definitely, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Yonatan. It's been lovely speaking to you. Appreciate you getting up early.